Good evening, fellow podcasters and YouTube world. If you are paying attention, birds of a feather, AJ the Suburban Princess here. Very bummed, very mentally exhausted, as any typical Philly fan usually is when they see that their favorite squad for the season has mentally packed it in. And so, therefore, well, I shouldn't say I have mentally packed in. Sixers lose game 5 in Miami. For some reason, these motherfathers can't play with or without Joel in Miami. I don't know if it definitely sure ain't the crowd's noise, because that crowd could give a damn compared to Philly crowd during a playoff game, no less. Let's just talk about in general the energy, okay? The fact that I wasn't even rushing, well, I was rushing to see this game, but I got detained. But when I finally did peep what was going on in the third quarter. Yes, because I had to work out and then I had a minor distraction that delayed everything. Whatever. You don't understand. You don't care. Whatever. The point is, by the time I watched the game, I just thought, okay, they're behind by more than 10. I won't freak out because there's still the fourth quarter. Apparently, I missed Joel Embiid getting smacked in the face by the ball under the basket from PJ Tucker and collapsing on the floor. I also seem to miss a very lackluster support team that was supposed to be supporting this MVP player. Mind you, everything rolls through Embiid when it comes to this team's energy. So you can imagine what it's like to see the fourth quarter begin and they don't look any more crisp or cleaner or have a boost of energy at all. And if they did, it was only because Embiid decided to get over the fact his face was throbbing and his knee was hurting from apparently diving into the audience to get a ball. A little bit of flashbacks of the last playoff season started to come through your head because you're just starting to go, here goes Embiid throwing his body all over the place, and the last rites of a postseason lost when the team doesn't decide to step it up at a very crucial time in the game that could lead to them not having to work as hard to work for game 6. And now here I am saying, as a fan, I'm done. I'm tired. I'm tweeting it. I'm irritated. Shout out to Tyrone for reading my tweet because I'm tired. I'd rather Embiid go to the hospital, get everything fixed at once, heal, because Lord knows the minute the boy is on his back too long, he will gain 100 pounds, or I'm being exaggerated, but he'll gain weight. He needs cardio because he's a big guy. So anytime that he chooses to chill on his butt is going to cost him in terms of energy. And he needs all summer to be healed from his hands, literally from his head to his toes. So I want him in the nearest hospital, whether he has to go out of the country or what. But he just needs to disappear and heal during the off season because nothing on this team is going to change. We're stuck with Harden because once again, that's a deal that obviously could go down either way. The Sixers have no choice but to keep him because at this point, if he's been saying he's always wanted to come here through all the teams he's been on, and Daryl Morley has been dying to bring his little lamb here, who's come up lame. At the moments when Embiid decides to check out, he's supposed to have been that guy to root the team together. And even with the huddles and even with the constant sideline talk, I don't think James Harden is ever going to be 100% Houston Harden as much as we all want him to be. But again, I hate to get into the Negadelphian, but I've felt very pissed off because I feel like it's a waste of time to hope in this team to magically pull it together tomorrow night at home, like it means something, like they won't take their asses back to Miami and fall on their faces again as soon as the defense amps up again. And that's exactly pretty much what I got from this game last night. The little that I saw, the last part of this game that I did see, apparently they couldn't handle Miami's defense coming up strong from the beginning to the end. And Tobias didn't come up and show up. Maxey was lost again. Obviously, Niang and Danny obviously weren't factors. So how the hell that whole scheme changes within a day is beyond me. And it's annoying as a fan to sit there and watch a team who showed 2 games straight at home that they can come back as soon as Embiid is in play. And even if Embiid wasn't 100% himself and didn't even play his best, they still are a unit. So if Embiid already walked into that game with low energy, y'all got to pull it from somewhere. Because as soon as you see him moping and looking like heavy, because he probably doesn't know where he is half the time, because he's still technically concussed. I don't care what anybody says. They might have rushed him, as soon as he didn't feel any of the symptoms for that one day, and then he resumed them as soon as he got hit again, which was going to happen. Okay? There's no way to prevent arms and limbs from flying when he's trying to get the ball under the basket. So him being a center has unfortunately been a detriment to this game, because he's a very unusual center in the fact that he can do so many other things that don't involve contact. Even though he's a physical, huge specimen, he's going to get hit no matter whether he's under the basket or not. So that's here nor there. Me as a fan I'm tired, and I try to pride myself on being a faithful, hopeful, optimistic person. But I am tired. Okay, I'm tired of hoping that after tomorrow night, whether they play good or not, is going to mean that game 7 is theirs for the taking. What I believe it will mean is halfway through tomorrow night, if they can tell they're not with it, the Heat's just going to roll in there and take over, and they're going to win the series. I'd rather they do that. Actually, I'm lying. I'd rather they had done that before Embiid decided to come back. I wanted them to just make it a quick 4-0 sweep so they could just end the season early. Embiid can go get himself hooked up to any kind of surgery that he can get in the next 24, 48 hours and spend all summer healing, like literally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, because he has used every trick in the book, and the team still cannot take over unless it's set up for them to take over. It's almost like nobody can think on the spot. I don't know if it's the game plan, and maybe the game plan is the problem. Maybe Embiid wasn't really sold on how Glenn wanted to play. I don't know. But the fact that Embiid said they strayed away from the game plan in his post presser, I was kind of like, okay, so then the game plan wasn't good enough to stay on board, or did it not apply to the defense? And maybe that's why everybody kind of was all over the place, because the same maybe players weren't playing on them. I don't know. I don't know the specificities, because like I said, I can't say if I watched the whole game, I got every single snap. But I got enough to know that there was no reason for them not to come back in the fourth, especially when Embiid started getting himself back into a mode. And then by that time, of course, obviously they had taken over, and, Bam started hitting his shots, and here go Duncan Robinson out of freaking nowhere. So once all that stuff starts hitting and Jimmy's jumping all over the place like a little kid who won a game and got a huge big teddy bear, you just realize that this is a common theme. I mean, I don't know how many seasons you can go and get stuck in the second round, and be the bridesmaid without ever making it to the altar and getting married. I mean, I had more anger earlier today. I had more anger last night, but I decided not to tweet too much after a while, when I finally just realized, okay, this is why the Phillies are back, even though they're not doing spectacular. But today, they took the series in Seattle, so that's good. Rhys Hoskins got out of his funk, and he got a grand slam, so yay for the Phillies. The Eagles are already getting exciting talks about, how their roster's looking out. Tomorrow night's supposed to be the schedule drop, so half of the reason I think that it's over is because fans have already, I think, mentally checked out on the Sixers and decided that they can't figure it out consistently enough to last. And honestly, we didn't think they would even make it to the second round. I mean, they pretty much tripped up their way through Toronto. And if had Embiid not gotten that, elbow to the orbital bone, who knows? He might have still had some energy last night. I mean, obviously it's not exactly fun to be flying back and forth between days and then play the next day, but whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. If you're a professional athlete, you know what the things you have to do. You have to get as much sleep as possible. You have to take all the freaking vitamin supplements and protein drinks you can take so that you have some kind of semblance of energy. The day of a game, the night of a game, you would think that you would want to punch them in the mouth and not have to keep flying back and forth. Like you would want to end it, you know? And I would think that especially after it formally announced that Nikolic or whatever his name is, Joker, was getting the MVP, I thought that would be enough to light Embiid's ass to be like, okay, it's really, really official, you know, and he would actually just go in there extremely pissed off, and he was despondent. And then I don't think the hit helped. I think that after a while, him landing into the audience didn't help. I think he was just. I think he succumbed to the mentality and the exhaustion of always having to carry injured limbs, and his face is throbbing constantly, and the mask is not helping. And it's just debilitating when the rest of the team can't follow your lead because you're just out of sorts. So now they're out of sorts. When someone can just take the lead and just say, you know what, why don't you just sit down for like half a quarter and then come back, because we're all thrown off now. I knew when I saw Shake in there like a quarter earlier than I suspected something was up. And like I said, I was in and out a lot most of the first half, so most of the second half is what's coming to mind. And I'm just tired as a fan trying to be positive when you clearly see that there is a problem with this team. And there's a problem always because there's something that they just cannot keep putting a Band-Aid over. And that's their lack of consistency. That's their lack of stamina and drive when it matters, as opposed to all the other games when it's in between and they decide to just act like they're possessed. And then they're so tired from all that they can't keep up the same energy for the game that really matters to seal the deal. That, and I still think it's this whole mentality like, I thought you got it. I thought you got it. No, I thought you had it. I was trying to fall back. I thought you had it. That's what I'm getting every time we get to this point in a second round. Is somebody thinks that somebody else can take the night off so that you can take the lead because you were doing fine before. You know, I think Embiid got woozy and expected, okay, well, here's where Tobias can go off. Here's where Harden can take over. They did it before. I mean, you gotta be shitting me to believe that this is gonna really keep us in charged up to go. Sorry, I've been drinking my hard. Sorry. It's just hard to have the same energy when you feel like this team does the same shit every time around this time of year. And the fact that they've snuck through the first round, where I didn't even think they had a shot anyway, especially because Toronto did nothing but beat them most of the year, regular season. I just felt like it was just asking for too much to expect them to go in to Miami, start off the series with at least 1 out of 1 win. You know, like if they stole one after losing the first, I would have been impressed for that, knowing that Embiid may or may not would be coming back, because I figured by then when they get home, they're going to be used to what they have left and just work with it, you know? And yes, they're probably going to get beat, but if every game ends up being close by like a bucket and they still win, mad respect, you know, mad respect for everybody rebounding, knowing that their biggest part of their puzzle is gone. And the fact that he came back almost became a mental crutch for this team. And I hate to say it, but there's usually every player like that on every Philly team that all the players seem to lean on and become dependent on. And that is not good. There should be a part of you that says, I can do this as much as he can, or if not, a little better when he's lacking. You know, everybody has a purpose on a hand. Every digit is important to one hand. So every person on a team is important to a basketball game. There's no nights off, especially when a team like the Sixers needs every single person on deck, even the bench. And yes, the bench is not a factor when they suck from beginning to end. I get that. But there's a point even after like freaking Korkmaz is hitting air balls, you know? Matisse disappeared again, even if I didn't see Matisse doing too much. The fact that he wasn't doing enough or anything to make me remember that game last night, other than they lost, is disgusting. Like, half of the bench needs to go just because they're easily shook when they're not being used or not using themselves correctly. So somebody's got to go. You know, there's obviously going to have to be some movement. I don't know what the draft looks like next year for them, or later whenever. Forget it. I don't even know. I don't even care when the NBA draft is. I just know that I'd rather it not always come down to blaming Doc, because Doc's not out there. But I do agree he has had some issues with the way he deals with adjusting in a game, which seems to be a common thread with all these Sixers coaches. So obviously the best guys that were on that associate coaching staff are gone, with the exception of Sam Cassell. So if Sam Cassell ends up being a standing coach for a while and Glenn doesn't return and goes to the Lakers like the rumors want, totally fine with that, just for the change. I'm not expecting much out of it because I think at the end of the day, the players are going to play the way they want to play, no matter who's coaching. But I do think the instinct sometimes with this team is to just fucking just go by the seat of their pants and just hope things work out, especially when their energy's not there, or if they're getting particularly blocked harder than they were the last game, which of course PJ was going to do because PJ was sucking ass all over the whole weekend when they were at home. So why wouldn't he wait till they get home to Miami and show up? You know, Bam, of course, is never going to disappear that long. Who's going to show up? Jimmy didn't even have 40, but Jimmy made very important baskets when it mattered. You know, the fact that you even let Jimmy even feel that cocky and he wasn't even doing half as good as he did last weekend, you know, and his team just folded. So now it's Embiid's turn to watch his team fold. I get it. A series of 7 is obviously daunting. I mean, you're seeing these other teams, Celtics and the Bucks, playing tonight. I, for some reason, assume the Celtics are going to win the series. I don't know why. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, obviously, if the Bucks did. But I just feel like the Celtics, this is their year. And if they end up being the ones defending the East, then, hey, whatever. Because by the time all this stuff gets really interesting for the conference finals, we're going to be waiting for training camp gossip, you know, with the Eagles. Because I'm already there. Like, I'm mentally ready to see Dallas Goedert running again. I'm hoping to see more little skits between him and Avante. I'm waiting to see what the new head guys are saying because they apparently are having a really good rookie camp. So I just care about Eagles gossip at this point because I've already decided that the Sixers are tuned out. I know that there's 2 more games left, but I'm already decided it's over. Like, I'm sorry. I know the diehard Sixers fans don't want to hear that shit, but I'm sorry. It's over. They have decided to mentally tune out, and now they know what is expected of them tomorrow night, and they're either going to deliver or not. And everybody has that pressure coming to Philly. They don't want to get booed, but we've booed them even in the beginning of this series. We booed them when they played Toronto at home and weren't looking good enough. And they've managed to pull out a win. And even if they did lose, they came back and won again. So I think we're all waiting for this big rebound, but I just feel like they're at the end of their rope. Embiid is not handling this well anymore. I think his body's finally tired of holding it up. You know, I just think mentally he's tired. I think he's decided that if he's never going to be MVP in his career, he has to think about the next chapter, which is exactly what he was hinting to in his presser, which everybody thought, why is he talking retirement? Because he's been beat the fuck up every year. Okay. And for someone who is 7 foot, almost 300 pounds, talking about retirement, but he's been in this damn team since God was a boy and didn't really get better till like the last 5 years. Yeah, I would be talking about retirement too. Because at this point, I don't care whether you're a positive or negative person. The proof is in the pudding. He's good enough as what surrounds him. And if he has to be that guy doing 40 plus every night, he is going to pass out. Okay? I don't care how big he is. Nobody does that consistently every game. Sorry. You know? He almost got a 50 burger this year. I think he actually did. I think he got 51 one night. I have to go back and look it up. But my point is, you cannot expect him to do everything every night. That's not his job. His job is so his teammates help him get there so that he can help them get there. So that they all can get there. Okay? And I'm tired of watching them pitter-patter out. I'm tired of them whimpering out with their tails between their legs. I'm tired of feeling like there's hope around the corner. I'm just tired. There's a point even after a while where I think even God himself is just like, I just want my boy to be able to play next year. You know, I don't want him to be putting some permanent damage on his body by trying to press himself every freaking game because the rest of his team falls through, you know? And you would think grown men would realize, like, damn, I don't want to suck that much again. But come game time, you got 4 quarters. What are you doing? You know? And the devil is busy. So when he knows you are just here for the beating, he is going to beat the shit out of you. As he should. And I don't think Jimmy's happy to beat his buddy in Embiid, but he was happy to get over this hump because they were almost this close last season as well as the season before. Actually, I think last year, that's when Jimmy was exhausted. They could only go but so far, but they got far, and I think Jimmy at this point knows what it takes to keep going. He just needs his team to stay focused. And as you can see, if you get Tyler Hero uncomfortable, he can fold. So why they couldn't do that in Miami when that crowd is not even intimidating, only when the Heat make baskets. But other than that, they could give a shit. They could go to the beach. They already know they got this in the bag. And we're sitting there wondering, why are you making it so easy for them to get to the basket on every single possession? Like, where is the defense? And why do y'all suddenly forget to do defense when you're in Miami? Why is it at home y'all know how to defend? But you get to Miami and I guess y'all secretly want to be on the damn beach? Is that what it is? Because y'all done checked out as soon as you got there. Y'all think about more of the outfits to wear before you go into the damn game than you are actually in the game. I mean, come on. Shout out to Tobias because he got some nice legs. I'll give him that. But it's one of those situations where I do not feel like being a fan and a cheerleader for a team that clearly has decided that this is harder than it looks, and we're not up for it. We're not good enough, And I'd rather, like I said, they just take a sweep last week instead of Embiid throwing himself in there on the ground all over the place, being amazing over the weekend and then be totally lethargic and indifferent last night. I do not think it had anything to do with the MVP thing, because I think even if Mike was trying to make that point to Charles Barkley today on the phones, I don't think he thought he was going to get voted at that point once it first came up, earlier in the year, and then when he answered it in the first round. It's like, I think he knew the writing was on the wall. He can't do anything about it, and it may irk him, but it also made him realize, like, I just have to work harder. And even if he works harder, then what? I think that just NBA sports writers have a certain ideal of who should be an MVP, and it's clearly not him. And where I will agree with Charles is that I think that Embiid's overall mood when he feels defeated is what annoys the writers. That's what, and the fact that he's always hurt, and I get it. But at the same time, the fact that he still tries to play through the hurt is where I see an MVP. And where I see an MVP is when the whole team seems to change literally overnight when he shows up. That to me is a most valuable player. Now, Jokic may be the same way to his team, but I don't see his team being bad without him. Yeah, they're not in the playoffs anymore, but I mean, I don't think they fold like our team does. So as a fan, I'm just saying peace out. I'm done. I'm spent. Of course, I'll watch. I'm not one of these people saying they're never going to watch. I'm just not expecting anything. And I told myself that even before this playoff started, to not expect much from them. And when they lost, I felt justified, but I also wasn't celebrating. I'm just more like, I'm literally done now. Like, no hope. Okay? Unless you can secretly get and be totally healed in 24 hours, do I believe this team has a chance if they're that dependent on Embiid to get them to the next round? You just can't do it. He's human. He's going to be tired. His body is going to cramp. He's going to be uncomfortable. His face is feeling probably disheveled. He probably feels like he has 4 sets of eyes on his head. I just, people don't get it. And I get that Charles wanted to be Mr., masculine man. Like, we don't want to hear all that shit. Guys have played with broken jaws. Guys have played with half their foot on their body. Kobe played with a busted ACL. Okay, fine. There are exceptions to the rule. But I think with Embiid, a face is literally more important than any of the other limbs that you can just throw in a sling or put a glove on, like his thumb, and keep going. Your face fucked up and the bone moving around your eye, not fun. You kind of need to see the basket, okay? So for all those who think he's a joke now, all of a sudden, who are sniffing his drawers like literally 3 weeks ago, kiss my butt, because I still think he's the MVP of the season. I thought he was actually the MVP last year, honestly, up until the playoffs. But again, we're back here again, and there's no Ben Simmons to blame about not taking that last shot. This time, it was just the whole damn team. There's no specific person who was less or more sucky than the other, and the fact that we have to wait till tomorrow to see if they decide to play, you still got the annoying question mark if they can do it Sunday if need be. I don't feel good about it. I'm sorry. And to end my rant, I will just say this. Being a Negadelphian doesn't always have to be a horrible thing, okay? Sometimes there's basis and there's actual reasoning behind it without all the vulgarity, without all the totally biased, conspiracy theories. There's just tons of results that lend to the Negadelphian mentality. There's tons of missed opportunities, rejected chances at championships, and woven somewhere in the middle of that are like a championship every, we're lucky, 10 to 15, 20 years. And when the Eagles finally won theirs, that's probably the most recent thing we have to hold on to, and yet, just like the Sixers roster, the Eagles will keep churning that butter and changing their lineup until they get it right. And those people still may not stay because, contracts have a way of always having these rentals, and some of these dudes never stay anyway. So again, we have to deal with constant change, and hell, we went through a whole off season after, Carson moved on. 2 seasons later, people still are doubting Jalen Hurts. I was one of them in the beginning. I'm not gonna lie, because I was not easy with the whole Carson Wentz, flare out. But now at this point, I'm like, he just doesn't get it. Whereas Jalen Hurts has always looked at himself as a winner, but he's always been able to kind of learn on the job and add his talent. So now he just has to put a championship or a division win or something behind it for him to feel like he belongs in this league. And I feel he has a high rate of potential, but am I thinking Super Bowl? Hell no. Okay? There are tons of guys out there who are pretty much foaming at the mouth since the last Super Bowl. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, obviously Joey. Joey was in the damn Super Bowl and he almost could have won it, literally a play away. And, amongst other guys, but those guys hit me harder in my head because I know that those guys were that close per team. I mean, Lamar was way out of it, obviously, before them, but Josh Allen, I know it specifically. I want to see him get to that point and make it. But I want more for Lamar too, and now that obviously Hollywood is a Cardinal and Lamar has to really, really back up the fact that he has to learn more than just run, which I think he's been working on. The inevitable injuries and the fact that his whole O-line was pretty much shot to hell obviously is not a fair advantage for him. And he's still deciding on what he wants for his contract, and there's a lot of guys out here who are overpaid who don't need their contracts renewed right now. But someone like Lamar, it'll be interesting to see if he's even trying to. I honestly don't think he cares right now because I don't think he feels like he wants to worry about that. His whole focus is, I want to feel like this thing has a chance of getting back to the playoffs and that we can actually get to the Super Bowl. And until then, I ain't worried about my fucking contract. I have to give him props for that because he's just like, that's just one more distracting thing. Now, if something happens this reason and suddenly he has a huge contract, I'll be like, good. But I'd rather he get to the playoffs this year for real and be a threat other than, mid-season flame out and him just wishing and hoping again next year. For the fact that he had such a short time going right to a starting quarterback and being an MVP that year and still not winning the whole thing, to me, it was just a matter of time for Lamar to figure out exactly what makes him a quarterback and not just a running back as people want to make him in the league. I think he's learning to pass the ball in the pocket. I think he's gotten a little bit better with that. He still has to run, but I know that the few games that I've watched with him or most of the games that were shown, he was not always running first. And that was probably good to see. And I think that was refreshing for his coach to see because I think he was trying to prove everybody wrong. I don't have to run all the time. But another reason why, too, it's going to be very important that his O-line is back and very important that he gets some defensive help again because sometimes them offensive plays just aren't there and the defense has to step up. And the Baltimore Ravens have always been known for their defense. So they have not lived up to that in a long time. So it's about time. And there's just a lot of renewal. There's a lot of new blood. There's a lot of new faces. And a lot of quarterbacks that have switched places, and so it'll be a whole nother rebirth of a season. And we'll see what else comes out of it. But right now, basketball. I know the Celtics, the Bucks. I know that uh most likely the Suns will be in it, obviously, because I think the Mavericks gave them a nice little run, but I think the Suns will get it. Monty deserves Coach of the Year. Monty has been consistent. He was on our staff, but Sixers didn't promote him. So I do feel like everything that happens for a reason happens for a reason. That's why I've decided I'm going to be a true, real Negadelphian and just say, F it all, I'm done. So tomorrow we will have a co-ed edition pod live from Sutton's for Eddie B's portion, because I'm always going to stay here. One of these days I might, do a live with him, and we haven't figured that out yet. But the co-ed edition will return tomorrow, so expect a live broadcast shortly. And sometime tomorrow. In the meantime, I thought this was going to be a lot more angry, but I'm tired. It's almost 10:30. I've eaten. I've thought about it enough to be like, you know what? I can't help but be real. And sometimes the realness is not always positive. But I'm not one of these people who thrive on being negative. I just know when it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a damn duck. All right. Later, y'all. Birds of a Feather, AJ the Suburban Princess. I'm out. Have a good night.